It was 0150 on May 19, 1944. Lieutenant Commander Walton Pendleton was in the cramped Combat Information Center of the USS England, a Buckley-class destroyer escort, watching his sonar operator track a Japanese submarine, I-16, moving at 6 knots north of Bougainville. The Japanese Imperial Navy had placed 7 submarines across the route to the Marianas. Pendleton, 37 years old and on his first war patrol as a commanding officer, had 0 submarine kills. The England was built for hunting submarines. It was 77 feet shorter than a fleet destroyer and carried a crew half its size. Its unique weapon was the British-developed Hedgehog, a system of 24 spigot mortars on the foredeck. These mortars fired 65-pound projectiles 200 yards ahead of the ship in a circular pattern. They had contact fuses, meaning they only exploded if they hit something solid. This was a radical departure from the traditional depth charge, which had been the standard anti-submarine weapon for 3 decades. Depth charges, rolled off the stern and set to an estimated depth, resulted in only 1 confirmed kill for every 60 attacks by British forces during the war. The explosions from depth charges also made sonar useless for 15 minutes, allowing submarines to escape in the chaos. Hedgehog was forward-throwing, maintaining sonar contact throughout the attack, and misses were silent, preventing water disturbance and lost contact. While early trials showed a 5% success rate and many captains preferred the familiar depth charge, Pendleton trusted the numbers: 1 Hedgehog kill for every 5 attacks compared to 1 depth charge kill for every 80 attacks. Perfect intelligence had set the stage. Fleet Radio Unit Pacific had decoded I-16's transmission, giving its destination and arrival time. The England and 2 sister ships were positioned exactly along its route. The sonar contact was real. I-16, with its commander knowing it was being hunted, began standard Japanese evasion tactics, radical turns and changing depth. Pendleton ordered the first Hedgehog attack at 1341. It was a miss. I-16 had turned. The second attack scored 1 hit at 130 feet, which was not enough. The third attack missed as I-16 had gone deep to 325 feet, deeper than estimated. The fourth attack also missed as I-16 turned inside the pattern. Then, at 1433, the fifth attack scored 4 detonations, then 6, followed by a massive underwater explosion. The blast lifted England's stern clear out of the water. 20 minutes later, oil, wood, and fabric surfaced. I-16 was gone, and 107 men were dead. This single engagement, with 5 Hedgehog attacks resulting in 1 kill, proved the weapon. It gave Pendleton a 20% success rate, 4 times better than the early trials. The crew, having heard the explosions and seen the debris, now trusted the weapon. The intelligence continued. Fleet Radio Unit Pacific had decoded a new message. 7 more Japanese submarines were stationed in a patrol line, the NA line, north of the Admiral Islands, and the England was sailing straight toward them. On May 20th, Commander Hamilton Haines received the intelligence at Tulagi. 7 Type KO submarines, RO-104, RO-105, RO-106, RO-108, RO-109, RO-112, and RO-116, each with 56 crew members, were positioned at precise intervals from Truk Island to the waters west of Manus. Their mission was to detect American carrier task forces moving toward the Marianas or Palau Islands, acting as Admiral Toyoda's eyes. Haines ordered the England to join the destroyer escorts George and Robbie. 3 ships against 7 targets seemed impossible, but Pendleton had proven the weapon worked. The hunting group departed Purvis Bay on May 21st, maintaining radio silence and relying on radar and continuous sonar pinging to find the submarines the old way. Pendleton knew the Japanese were predictable, stationing submarines along routes Admiral Halsey had previously used. The Americans had the advantage of knowing the picket line's position. Submarine patrol patterns were also predictable: surface at night to recharge batteries, dive at dawn, and run submerged during daylight. The window for radar detection when submarines were vulnerable on the surface was narrow. A commander could dive to 200 feet in 3 minutes. The England's crew had drilled for this. with sonar operators tracking and calculating positions, and the Hedgehog launchers loadable and fireable in 90 seconds. At 0350 on May 22nd, the Georgia's radar detected a surface contact at 15,000 yards. RO-06 was recharging her batteries and crash-dove immediately after being caught in the Georgia's searchlight. George fired Hedgehog at 14:15, but it was a miss. The England regained sonar contact at 4:25, with RO-06 running deep and making radical turns. The Japanese commander was attempting to turn inside the attack pattern and change depth to make the Americans guess. But Pendleton's sonar operator tracked every move, feeding data directly to the Hedgehog firing solution. The first attack missed. The second attack at 5:01 scored 3 detonations, followed by a massive underwater explosion. The pressure wave was felt 4,000 yards away. At sunrise, a half-mile-wide oil slit confirmed kill number 2. 24 hours after I-16, the 3 destroyer escorts reformed their line. On May 23rd, the Robbie's radar detected another surface contact at 0600, but the submarine dove before identification. The Japanese commander had learned from RO-06's death: stay deep and make them guess the depth. The Robbie fired 4 Hedgehog attacks, all misses, and Georgia's subsequent 4 attacks between 0717 and 0810 also missed. The Japanese commander, later identified as RO-04, was good, constantly turning and changing depth to defeat the mathematics. Division Commander Haynes noticed the pattern. The England was the killer. Her sonar operators seemed better, her crews faster, or Pendleton's solutions more accurate. Haynes radioed the now legendary 5 words, "Oh hell, go ahead, England." Pendleton's first attack missed, but the second attack at 0834 scored 10, maybe 12 detonations, merging into a continuous roar. Breaking up noises, metal tearing, and collapsing bulkheads followed, culminating in a major underwater explosion 3 minutes later as the submarine's batteries ruptured. Oil and debris surfaced after sunrise. Kill number 3. 72 hours, 3 submarines, 163 Japanese sailors gone. At 020 on May 24th, the Georgia's radar detected RO-016, which dove at 0130. The pattern was repeating: radar, crash dive, sonar tracking, Hedgehog attack. However, RO-016's commander changed tactics, going shallow to 150 feet instead of the usual deep dive, betting the Americans would fire for deep targets. He bet wrong. Pendleton's sonar operator instantly adjusted the firing solution. The first attack at 0214 scored 3 to 5 detonations. The sounds were not massive explosions, but the punch of 65-pound projectiles creating 3-inch holes in the pressure hull. At 150 feet, seawater floods a submarine at 400 gallons per minute through a 3-inch hole. The submarine began to groan under pressure and settle deeper. Increased pressure at 300 feet led to more water, rising internal temperatures, and the crew's death within 6 minutes. Oil and debris surfaced after sunrise. Kill number 4. 5 days, 4 submarines, 56 more sailors gone.
Word of the unprecedented record: 1 destroyer Escort, 4 confirmed kills in 5 days using the distrusted Hedgehog, reached Admiral Ernest King, Chief of Naval Operations in Washington. King's message to Third Fleet was simple: there'll always be an England in the United States Navy. But fame brought new orders. On May 25th, Admiral Halsey wanted the England pulled from hunting and reassigned to carrier escort duty. Her experienced crew was too valuable to risk. Commander Haynes refused. 3 submarines, RO-105, RO-108, and RO-109, remained. Haynes argued that the mathematics suggested the England could finish the mission in 3 more days, and pulling her would allow the Japanese to continue reporting fleet movements. Halsey agreed to 1 more patrol. At 23:03 on May 26th, the Rabbi gained radar contact on RO-108. The submarine dove, and the England gained sonar contact. RO-108's commander made the same mistake as RO-116, staying shallow and making radical turns. But the England's crew, having tracked 4 submarines before this one, knew every evasion tactic. Rabbi missed, and Division Commander Haynes gave the order again: go ahead, England. At 23:23, the England commenced a Hedgehog attack on RO-108. 4 to 6 projectiles hit, and the explosions merged into one continuous roar. RO-108 broke apart immediately. The pressure hull ruptured simultaneously at multiple points, and the submarine imploded. 56 men died in less than 3 seconds. Kill number 5. 6 days, 5 submarines, 279 Japanese sailors dead. In Tokyo, Admiral Toyoda reviewed the reports. 5 of 7 submarines on the NA line were missing, without distress calls, at a rate of 1 per 24 hours. Something fast and accurate was killing his submarines, something they couldn't evade. On May 27th, Toyoda issued new orders to RO-105 and RO-109. The new patrol depth was 400 feet minimum, with no battery recharging unless essential. The new evasion tactic was to run silent at first detection, as radical maneuvers made noise that helped sonar operators. The Japanese were learning from dead men's mistakes. The tactical situation was changing. 5 kills had expended 120 of the England's 240 Hedgehog rounds. The Japanese were adapting. On May 30th, the George detected RO-105 on radar. The submarine dove immediately, going deep to 400 feet, and then stopped all engines, achieving complete silence. The England established a weak, intermittent sonar contact, a knuckle or patch of disturbed water. Pendleton faced a choice: fire Hedgehog at a weak contact, and likely miss, wasting 24 precious projectiles, or wait. He chose to wait 4 silent hours. At 2:30 on May 31st, the signal strengthened. RO-105 was moving. Battery power was running out. The commander made a final gamble. Surfacing at 3:15, but having drifted 3 miles from the last known position. The George's radar caught her, but the hunting group had been searching the wrong grid square. By the time the England turned, RO-105 had crash dove, gaining 90 seconds of battery charging and enough power to run. The England established sonar contact at 3:45. RO-105 was running deep and fast at 6 knots. The Japanese commander, having learned from the 5 dead submarines, knew that staying deep and running fast made Hedgehog attacks difficult. At 400 feet, the Hedgehog projectiles, sinking at 23 feet per second, took 17 seconds to reach target depth. In that time, a 6-knot submarine could travel 170 feet, meaning the firing solution required a correct prediction of its position 17 seconds in the future. Pendleton's first attack at 4:05 missed by 200 feet. The second attack at 4:23 missed by 100 feet. The submarine was varying its speed, making the mathematics impossible. 48 projectiles had been expended. The England had 72 remaining, about 3 more chances to kill RO-105. At 4:47, Pendleton's sonar operator detected a pattern. RO-105 was turning 30 degrees to port, then 30 degrees to starboard, every 4 minutes. The commander thought he was being random, but humans fall into patterns. Pendleton adjusted the firing solution, predicting the turn, and led the target by 200 feet. The third attack at 5:08 scored 4 to 5 detonations. The pressure hull was breached but not destroyed, and the submarine began emergency procedures to surface and abandon ship. But the England's fourth attack at 5:32 hit with 8 detonations. The submarine broke apart. The crew never reached the surface. Oil and debris appeared at 6:15. Kill number 6. 12 days, 6 submarines, 335 Japanese sailors dead. In Tokyo, Admiral Toyoda reviewed the reports. 5 of 7 submarines on the NA line were missing, without distress calls, at a rate of 1 per 24 hours. Something fast and accurate was killing his submarines, something they couldn't evade. On May 27th, Toyoda issued new orders to RO-105 and RO-109. The new patrol depth was 400 feet minimum, with no battery recharging unless essential. The new evasion tactic was to run silent at first detection, as radical maneuvers made noise that helped sonar operators. The Japanese were learning from dead men's mistakes. Admiral Halsey received the report. The record was unprecedented and unmatched. He immediately issued new orders on June 1st to pull the England from submarine hunting. 6 kills were enough. The England had proven the Hedgehog system beyond any doubt. Every destroyer escort in the Pacific Fleet would receive updated training and tactics based on the England's action reports. The last submarine, RO-109, had received Toyoda's warning and ran deep and silent. She survived the war. The mathematics of the England's record was brutal and beautiful. Against the depth charge's 1.6% success rate and the Hedgehog's 5% average, the England achieved an approximately 40% success rate with 6 kills in about 15 total attacks. This was 25 times more effective than depth charges and 8 times more effective than the Hedgehog average. The weapon system became standard on every destroyer escort by September 1944. The rest of the fleet studied the England's tracking, loading, and firing solutions. In the Atlantic, Hedgehog sank 47 German U-boats, achieving a 17.5% success rate, the best anti-submarine weapon of the war, but no ship matched the England's 12-day record. Lieutenant Commander Pendleton received the Navy Cross in August for his tactical brilliance, his crew's discipline, and the weapon system's effectiveness. But the citation didn't mention the most important thing: mathematics. Pendleton had trusted numbers over tradition, calculating firing solutions while others guessed. The England continued escort duty but never fired Hedgehog in combat again. On October 31, 1944, a kamikaze aircraft hit the England off Leyte Gulf, killing 37 crew members. The damage was catastrophic. Repairs would take 6 months and cost more than a new ship, so the Navy decided the England wasn't worth saving. She was towed, stripped of useful equipment, and sold for scrap, ending her life in a salvage yard in November 1946. The ship that sank 6 submarines in 12 days was cut apart for razor blades and tin cans. Yet, the record still stands. 80 years later, the England remains the greatest submarine killer in naval history. The Navy kept its promise, kind of. In 1960, the guided missile leader destroyer USS England was commissioned, serving until 1994, but the name disappeared from the fleet after its decommissioning. The original Hedgehog launcher, rusted and forgotten, sits in storage at the National Museum of the United States Navy in Washington. Japanese records confirmed the 6 kills: I-16, RO-106, RO-104, RO-116, RO-108, and RO-109. 335 sailors were confirmed dead, with each submarine's final position exactly matching the England's attack coordinates. The Japanese Navy never understood what killed them so fast. Their action reports mentioned explosions above and death within minutes, but no one survived to describe the circular pattern of contact-fused, forward-throwing mortars. The British developed Hedgehog, the Americans perfected it, and the England proved it. Destroyer escorts were expendable, most scrapped within 5 years of peace. The England was scrapped at 2.5 years old. The ship that sank 6 submarines in 12 days was cut apart for razor blades and tin cans.
Yet the record still stands. 80 years later, the England remains the greatest submarine killer in naval history. The Navy kept its promise, kind of. In 1960, the guided missile destroyer leader USS England was commissioned, serving until 1994. But the name disappeared from the fleet after its decommissioning. The original Hedgehog launcher, rusted and forgotten, sits in storage at the National Museum of the United States Navy in Washington, D.C. Japanese records confirmed the 6 kills: I-16, RO-106, RO-104, RO-116, RO-108, and RO-105. 335 sailors were confirmed dead, with each submarine's final position exactly matching the England's attack coordinates. The Japanese Navy never understood what killed them so fast. Their action reports mentioned explosions above and death within minutes, but no one survived to describe the circular pattern of contact-fused, forward-throwing mortars. The British developed Hedgehog, the Americans perfected it, and the England proved it. Destroyer escorts were expendable, most scrapped within 5 years of peace. The England was scrapped at 2.5 years old.
The ship that changed naval warfare wasn't even worth the metal she was made from.